My name is Tina B, and on the 10th of June 2023, I had a heart attack. Did you know that women are less likely to seek medical attention for a heart attack and get treatment, as they dismiss the symptoms as something else? Also, heart attacks are often seen as a man's disease. Join me in my first vlog as I talk through the experience of my heart attack, how I have dealt with life since, and the changes I have made to ensure that I never have to go through it again. If that brief introduction has not put you off, then welcome. Over the next few months, I will go through the scary things and the positive things. Yes, there are positive aspects to this. For one thing, I am still here. It wasn't your typical Saturday. For one thing, I was in Wales, which isn't where I live. I was staying with a mate of mine, and it was hot. I mean, off the scale hot. We were sat chilling, if you pardon the pun, and collaborating on work. He is an independent filmmaker. Links to his amazing work can be found below. And we were throwing ideas around, which I was typing up. I was sat in his comfy seat, crouched over a stool. At about 5 o'clock, I got a few pains in my chest that carried on for a while. I googled on my phone, what does a heart attack feel like? I looked at it and thought, nah, not me. After a while, I went for a lie down in the bedroom. I opened the window and did a few stretches, as it felt muscular. It really did feel like bad posture. And I went and lay down on the bed. At this point, I felt that my arm was hurting me and that I was going to be sick. But I put it down to posture and humidity. Nothing else. I do have an underlying heart condition, but it has never bothered me. And if I'm being honest, I'm rubbish at taking my medication. All of this is what was causing the pain. My friend came into the room and asked me a few questions, which I now know that he was checking to see if I'd had a stroke. He continued with the questions and handed me my phone and asked me to unlock it. I didn't think cheeky git. Why does he want to use my phone? But anyway, he phoned 111 and they asked him for medical advice. Lots and lots of questions. The ones he couldn't answer, he asked me because he knew a lot about me. And then they said that they wanted to send an ambulance. I asked them which hospital to be taking me to, and it was one in Aberystwyth. My reaction to that was no, I didn't want to go there. It was the hospital where my mum had got diagnosed with cancer in many years ago, and I really didn't want to go. They told him that it would take 3 hours to get an ambulance to us because of where we were. And that all seemed a bit silly to me. In 3 hours' time, it would all be past, and they'd be wasting their time when they could be dealing with a real emergency. So I declined and said no way to an ambulance. My friend went and spoke to them a bit more, and he came back and said that they'd agreed that he could take me to a hospital local to me, which was closer to the hospital in Aberystwyth if anything else felt wrong. I went and sat out in the living space in a chair that could make me sit in a proper way with better posture, and put a cool flannel around my face so that I could cool down. Jules went out to get disposable aspirin, which is what they'd told him to do, and took his phone with him just in case anything happened. We sat there and it was all okay. I took the tablets. We sat down and I think we watched a rom-com, I think. And the pain eased. At this point in the evening we'd be drinking wine, but for some reason it didn't seem appropriate if there may be a trip to hospital, so neither of us did. Later that evening he went to bed, I went to bed, and managed to get some sleep. It wasn't a bad night's sleep, and the pain had diminished, but it still felt slightly tight up there. See, just humidity and posture. No need to go to hospital. We carried on where we left off the day before, chatting and working together. It was a much better night's sleep, and I called the doctors for an appointment, but could only get one the following day as a telephone appointment. Had the appointment been that day, my friend would have driven me up, but there was no need for him to do that. The weather was warm, and so I decided that it would be better to go back the following morning when it would be a lot cooler and would save my friend petrol money in driving me to Shrewsbury. I got home with just a little bit of pain, but that was thanks to the potholes along the way. I sorted out my pills and took my meds. Thanks for scaring me, body, into realising that yes, the meds were necessary. The GP phoned and I explained everything to him. And after he told me off for not taking my meds, he ordered me to get a blood test. Not quite sure why you'd need a blood test or what it would show, but I agreed to it. I got through to the vampire, sorry, phlebotomy department at the hospital, to book a time, but they told me I needed a request from the GP, which meant yet another call and another appointment. So back on the phone I went. After 30 minutes I got through to a receptionist who told me to just go down to A&E. Knowing what A&E departments are like, I phoned them to find out what the wait time was. I explained everything to them and they told me that it was extremely busy and the current wait time was 9 hours. 9 hours! By now it was 4:30 in the afternoon and the last thing I wanted to do was sit in a hot waiting room surrounded by sick people. They told me to be quieter in the morning, so I agreed to go then and promised I would call 999 for an ambulance if I got any pains, which I thought was a good compromise. Whilst I was still not drinking, I did have a food order due and added a bottle of Prosecco with a screw top, so I didn't feel inclined to drink the whole bottle. I woke up still in two minds about whether to go to waste the hospital's time or not. But I knew my friend would ask me, and I didn't want to lie to him. So I headed to A&E just before midday. I filled in the forms and they took me for observations about an hour later, which is pretty good, and definitely not the 9 hours from the day before. I told the doctor everything that had happened from Saturday onwards, how I had stopped drinking alcohol, was being careful with my food, and had done the right thing by coming along. I was still adamant it was humidity and posture, so I kept apologising for wasting her time. They did an ECG on me, and that was fine, that came okay, clear. And then they did a blood test, which would take a couple of hours to come back. I sat in the waiting room. Thankfully, I'd taken some crafting with me, so that kept me amused and distracted. At around 3:15, they took me back through to the cubicles, and the doctor was looking at me very seriously. She told me that the blood test revealed that I had a heart attack on Saturday, and a severe one. She said that the indicators in the troponin levels were high. When the heart muscles become damaged, troponin is sent into the bloodstream. As heart damage increases, greater amounts of troponin are released in the blood. High levels of troponin in the blood may mean you are having or recently have had a heart attack. A heart attack happens when blood flow to the heart gets blocked. This blockage can be deadly. I asked for context. This meant nothing to me. What is high? She said that normal is less than 14. So what was mine then? 15, 16? It was 650. 650? Oh my gosh. That couldn't be right. There's got to have been some mistake. If it was this high 5 days later, then what would it have been on Saturday? I sarcastically said to her, well, if it's that high, why am I still here? She quietly said, I don't know. There must be a mistake then. They can't have my blood. They've mixed me up with somebody else. I asked for another one to prove this, and they agreed. I wasn't expecting them to agree so readily. But they have to do a second one, so I wasn't getting any special treatment. It was just bad posture and humidity, I insisted. I would know if I'd had a heart attack. I've watched enough television dramas. I didn't have a heart attack. I tried to stand up and fell back in my chair. I started to shake, and the tears gushed out. Boy, did they flow. I kept trying to stop. I'd get them under control, and they would well up again and escape from my eyes. They sent me for an x-ray and that was okay. I want to go home. I just want to go home. Today is not the day. to be sat in a hospital. I have things to do and I've got to go home. They came back and took more blood and told me to wait. I knew I was getting agitated. But the minute I stopped being agitated, then I cried again. Backwards and forwards, my brain going crazy. I was not in a good place. I don't just mean the hospital. There was a junior doctor's strike, so I saw a consultant who told me they were sorting out a bed for me, but that it would take some time. No, no, I wasn't staying. I explained I had to go home, that it was such an important day that I had to go home. It's not like they could do anything this late at night. You know, I promised I would come back the next day. I wasn't going to go anywhere other than home. I pleaded and begged, and eventually they agreed, as there were no beds. It took ages for a cab to arrive. I kept watching the time as I sat outside by the smokers. Come on, taxi, hurry up. I have to get home. The driver tried to engage me in conversation, but all I wanted to do was get home. We got there just after 9. I paid him and rushed out into the garden and put out the candles. I went to grab the screw-top Prosecco and stopped. If, it was still an if to me, if I had suffered a heart attack, then they'd tell me I wouldn't be able to drink again. I thought about my favourite whiskey, but I was at the wine rack and time was ticking, and so I grabbed a bottle of Moet. Solid. I sat outside and raised my glass to a strong woman. I'd made it in time. I'm alive. I'm here, and tonight might be my last alcohol. I want to keep being here. I also want to feel the screaming very loudly. I just don't get it. How could I have had a severe heart attack 5 days ago and be feeling fine? This is not like it is on the telly. I spoke to my friend and filled him in on the day. He told me he knew I was having a heart attack, but didn't want to panic me. See, lying would have only annoyed him because he knew. He knew, and lies are wrong. I stayed in the garden and messaged a couple of friends. I finished off the champagne and started on the Prosecco. I sat talking to my mum until the candles went out. Many years ago, my mum died tonight, and I was with her. I was 15, and I'd rushed back from school and sat with her. I watched as her chest rose and fell. I saw her grind her teeth. I knew I watched a deep breath and it stopped. I watched her do it again. And then she exhaled. And I knew she was gone. Damn it, I wish she was here. To life, eh? Coming up in my next instalment, I talk about what happened next at the hospital and the days of fear. Thank you for watching. It'd be great if you could like, comment, subscribe, and share with anyone you think may find this interesting.